At 80, your body betrays you in ways no one talks about. While everyone focuses on wrinkles and gray hair, there are 15 brutal changes happening inside you right now that make those seem like nothing. The one doctors rarely mention will shock you. Your body starts playing tricks on you after 80, and the first thing you'll notice is how everything seems to be shrinking. Well, not everything, just you. Most people lose about 1 to 2 inches in height by the time they hit 80, which means that closet full of perfectly hemmed pants suddenly becomes a tripping hazard. The real culprit here isn't some mysterious aging fairy with a shrinking wand. It's your spinal discs doing their impression of deflated balloons. These little cushions between your vertebrae have been working overtime for 8 decades, and they're tired. They flatten out, compress, and basically give up on their job of keeping you tall and proud. Your spine, which used to stand like a mighty oak, now resembles more of a question mark. But height isn't the only thing changing up there. Your shoulders decide to join the shrinking party too, narrowing like they're trying to fit through a smaller door. Meanwhile, your hips get the opposite memo and start expanding. It's like your body is playing some cosmic joke, narrow at the top, wider at the bottom. The result? Your silhouette changes completely, and suddenly those clothes that fit perfectly 10 years ago look like they belong to someone else. Then there's your head, which apparently didn't get the message about staying put. It starts tilting forward, as if you're perpetually leaning in to hear a secret. This isn't because you're suddenly more curious about the world, it's because the muscles and ligaments supporting your neck are weakening. Your head, weighing about as much as a bowling ball, becomes harder to hold upright. The forward tilt changes your entire appearance, making you look like you're always studying something on the ground. Speaking of ground, let's talk about what's happening to the foundation of your body, your bones. They're losing minerals faster than a leaky bucket loses water. Calcium, phosphorus, and other essential minerals that kept your bones strong and sturdy for decades start abandoning ship. The result is a skeletal structure that's becoming more fragile with each passing year. This mineral loss isn't just some minor inconvenience you can ignore. Your bones are literally becoming less dense, more porous, like a sponge instead of solid rock. The framework that's been supporting your body weight, protecting your organs, and giving you structure is quietly weakening from the inside out. You might not feel it happening, but your bones are having their own private crisis. The weird part is how all these changes work together to create a completely different body shape. Remember when you were younger and your posture was naturally straight, when your shoulders were broad and your stance was confident? Those days are becoming distant memories as your body settles into new patterns. Your center of gravity shifts too. With a forward tilting head, narrowing shoulders, and widening hips, your body has to find new ways to balance itself. Walking becomes a different experience. Standing requires more conscious effort. Even simple movements like reaching for something on a high shelf become reminders of how much your body has changed. Let's not forget the psychological impact of all this shrinking and shifting. When you've been a certain height your entire adult life, losing inches feels surreal. Mirrors seem wrong. Photos look off. You find yourself adjusting to a new physical reality that nobody really prepared you for. The clothing industry certainly didn't prepare for it either. Pants that used to fit perfectly now drag on the ground. Sleeves seem longer. Necklines sit differently. It's like your entire wardrobe conspired against you overnight, except the conspiracy took years to unfold. But here's what's particularly frustrating. This isn't happening because you did anything wrong. You didn't fail at aging or make bad choices that led to shrinking. This is just what human bodies do after 8 decades of faithful service. Your spine has been holding you upright through countless days. Your bones have supported millions of steps, and your muscles have lifted, carried, and moved you through an entire lifetime. The mineral loss in your bones sets up a domino effect that extends far beyond just looking shorter. When your skeletal structure weakens, it affects everything else. How you move, how you balance, how you carry yourself through the world. Your body becomes more vulnerable, more fragile, more likely to suffer consequences from things that wouldn't have bothered you before. And while we're talking about your body's structural changes, there's something else happening that makes these postural shifts even more significant. Your muscles, those faithful companions that have been keeping everything in place and helping you move through life, are about to stage their own dramatic transformation. Your body just shrunk a couple inches and your posture shifted, but that's only the beginning. While you're adjusting to looking at the world from a slightly different angle, something far more dramatic is happening beneath your skin. Your muscles are literally disappearing. Between ages 50 and 80, you'll lose up to 30% of your muscle mass. That's nearly 1/3 of the strength you spent decades building. The biceps that once carried heavy groceries without breaking a sweat, they're getting smaller every year, whether you notice it or not. And here's the kicker. This happens even if you stay active. Let's talk about what this actually feels like day to day. That gallon of milk you used to grab with one hand now requires a two-handed lift from the fridge. Opening a tight jar of pickles becomes a 5-minute wrestling match that you don't always win. The laundry basket that used to be no big deal, now it's a strategic mission requiring multiple trips up the stairs. Your legs take the biggest hit in this muscle vanishing act. The quadriceps, those big muscles in your thighs, shrink faster than almost any other muscle group. Suddenly, getting up from a low chair becomes a calculated maneuver. You might find yourself using your arms to push off or scooting to the edge of the seat first. Standing up from the toilet? Well, that's why grab bars become your new best friends. But wait, there's more to this strength-sapping story. Your movements don't just get weaker, they get slower, much slower. Tasks that used to be automatic now require genuine effort and planning. Climbing a flight of stairs transforms from a quick jog to a deliberate, measured climb. You might find yourself gripping the handrail not just for balance, but to actually pull yourself up each step. The frustrating part isn't just the physical limitation, it's the mental adjustment. Your brain still remembers being stronger. It sends signals expecting your body to respond like it used to, but your muscles basically shrug and say, "Sorry, we're operating at reduced capacity now." This disconnect can be genuinely surprising, even shocking at first. Then there's the fatigue factor that sneaks up on you. Physical tasks that never used to tire you out now leave you genuinely exhausted. Rearranging furniture becomes an all-day project instead of an afternoon task. Gardening for more than 30 minutes might require a recovery period. Your endurance drops alongside your raw strength, creating a double whammy of physical limitation. Exercise helps, absolutely. Strength training can slow down this muscle loss significantly. But here's the harsh truth that fitness enthusiasts don't like to hear. Even with consistent exercise, you're fighting a losing battle against time. You can slow the decline, you can maintain more strength than your sedentary peers, but you can't stop it entirely. Your 80-year-old muscles will never match your 30-year-old muscles, no matter how many weights you lift. The arms tell their own story of decline. Simple tasks like reaching overhead to grab something from a high shelf become genuinely challenging. Carrying multiple shopping bags requires strategic planning. Opening heavy doors, the kind that used to swing open easily, now demand your full attention and effort. Your grip strength weakens too, making everything from turning doorknobs to holding onto handrails less secure than before. And the weird part is how quickly you adapt to these changes without really noticing. You start unconsciously modifying your behavior. You park closer to store entrances. You ask for help with heavy items. You choose ground floor apartments over second floor ones. These aren't conscious decisions at first, they're just practical adjustments that make sense. What makes this muscle loss particularly cruel is its sneaky progression. You don't wake up one morning unable to lift things. Instead, tasks gradually become more difficult over months and years. The change is so gradual that you might not realize how much strength you've lost until you try to do something you haven't attempted in a while. Your core muscles, the ones that keep you stable and upright, weaken along with everything else. This affects your balance and makes you more cautious about quick movements. Bending down to pick something up becomes a calculated risk rather than an automatic action. You might find yourself using furniture or walls for support during movements that never required extra stability before. But muscle weakness is just one piece of this aging puzzle. While your muscles are quietly shrinking and slowing down, something even more concerning is happening to the framework that supports them. Your bones are becoming increasingly fragile, setting the stage for injuries that can change everything in an instant. Your muscles might be getting weaker, but here's where things get really scary. Those bones holding everything together, they're quietly becoming as fragile as eggshells. And the worst part is, you probably won't know until it's too late. After age 50, your bones start losing density at about 1% per year. Doesn't sound like much, right? Well, by the time you hit 80, that adds up to a 30% loss. Imagine your house losing 30% of its foundation. That's basically what's happening inside your body, except you can't see the cracks forming. Women get hit harder than men because of menopause. When estrogen levels drop, bone loss speeds up dramatically. Some women lose up to 20% of their bone density in the first 5 to 7 years after menopause. It's like someone hit the fast forward button on aging, but only for their skeleton. The sneaky thing about osteoporosis is that it's called a silent disease for good reason. Your bones can be crumbling away inside you, and you'll feel perfectly fine. No pain, no obvious symptoms, just weaker bones waiting for the wrong moment to snap. Makes sense why doctors call it the thief in the night. Then there's the domino effect nobody talks about. When your bones get fragile, even simple activities become dangerous. Getting out of bed wrong can crack a rib. Reaching for something on a high shelf can fracture your wrist. One woman broke her foot just stepping off a curb. Not tripping, not falling, just stepping down 6 inches onto solid pavement. But here's what really gets people's attention. Hip fractures. About 24% of people over 50 who break their hip die within a year. Not from the break itself, but from complications that follow. Blood clots, pneumonia, infections. Your body struggles to heal, and everything else starts falling apart. It's like pulling one card from a house of cards. The spine tells its own horror story. Those vertebrae in your back can literally collapse under their own weight when they get weak enough. Doctors call them compression fractures, and they hurt like hell. Imagine someone slowly crushing your backbone one vertebra at a time. Some people lose several inches of height just from their spine crumbling inward. Recovery becomes a nightmare too. When you're young, a broken bone heals in 6 to 8 weeks. After 80, try 4 to 6 months if you're lucky. Your body's repair system slows to a crawl. The calcium and minerals needed to rebuild bone move like molasses through your bloodstream. Let's not forget the psychological impact. Once you break one bone, the fear takes over. Every step becomes calculated. Every movement gets second-guessed. People start shuffling instead of walking normally, which actually makes falls more likely. It's a vicious cycle where fear of breaking bones leads to behaviors that increase the risk of breaking bones. And the weird part is how easily it happens. A 75-year-old man coughed too hard and cracked 3 ribs. A grandmother hugged her grandchild and fractured her wrist. These aren't dramatic accidents. They're everyday movements that suddenly become dangerous when your bones turn brittle. The numbers are staggering. About 54 million Americans have osteoporosis or low bone density. That's more than half of everyone over age 50. By 80, nearly all women and about 2/3 of men have significantly weakened bones. It's not if your bones will get fragile, it's when and how badly. Location matters too. Your hip, spine, and wrist are the most common fracture sites because they're made of the type of bone that weakens fastest. These areas have more of what's called trabecular bone, the spongy inner part that looks like a honeycomb. As you age, those honeycomb holes get bigger and the walls get thinner until there's barely anything left. Even minor falls become major disasters. What used to be a bruised ego and maybe a scraped knee can now mean surgery, months of recovery, and permanent disability. Some people never walk normally again after breaking a hip. Others develop chronic pain that lasts for years. The really frustrating part, much of this bone loss is preventable or at least slowable. Weight-bearing exercise, calcium, vitamin D, and certain medications can help, but most people don't think about their bones until something breaks. By then, you're playing catch-up with a skeleton that's already compromised. Your bones might be getting weaker by the day, but they're not the only parts of your body staging a rebellion. Wait until you hear what's happening to your joints, where your bones actually meet and try to work together. That's where the real daily torture begins. Your bones might be getting brittle, but here's where things get really personal. Those joints that have carried you through decades of life, they're about to become your daily reminder that time doesn't mess around. Remember when you could twist open a pickle jar without thinking twice? Well, forget that. By 80, your joints lose the slippery fluid that keeps everything moving smoothly. Think of it like a door hinge that's been squeaking for months, except now it's your knees, shoulders, and fingers doing the complaining every single day. The cartilage that once cushioned your joints starts wearing away like old tire treads. What used to be smooth, gliding movement becomes a grinding sensation that you'll feel deep in your bones. And the weird part is, you'll actually hear it happening. Those pops and cracks aren't just sound effects. They're your joints announcing their age to everyone within earshot. Let's not forget the numbers that'll make you wince. About half of all people over 80 deal with arthritis. Half? That means if you're sitting in a room with another 80-year-old, one of you is probably dealing with swollen, aching joints right now. The lucky winner gets to experience stiffness that makes getting out of bed feel like solving a puzzle your body forgot how to complete. Your hands become particularly rebellious. Those fingers that once flew across keyboards or knitted intricate patterns, they'll struggle with buttons, zippers, and anything requiring fine motor control. Opening medication bottles becomes an Olympic event. Makes sense, right? The very hands you've relied on for everything suddenly feel like they belong to someone else. But why do knees seem to suffer the most? Simple physics, really. These joints have been supporting your entire body weight for 8 decades. Every step, every climb, every dance move, your knees kept track. Now they're sending you the bill, and it's written in morning stiffness and afternoon aches that no amount of complaining will fix. Then there's the shoulder situation that nobody warns you about. Reaching overhead becomes an adventure in limitation. Grabbing something from a high shelf transforms from a simple stretch into a careful calculation of what your joint will actually allow. Your range of motion shrinks like a sweater in hot water, except there's no stretching this back to its original size. The morning routine becomes particularly entertaining, if you can call it that. What used to be a quick roll out of bed turns into a gradual unfolding process. Your joints need time to remember their job, like rusty machinery warming up before it can function. Coffee becomes essential not just for your brain, but for your entire skeletal system to get with the program. Weather becomes your new fortune teller. Changes in barometric pressure will announce themselves through your joints hours before any meteorologist catches on. You'll predict rain better than the local news, though this superpower comes with a price tag of increased stiffness and discomfort that makes you question whether knowing the forecast is worth it. And the cruel irony? Exercise could help, but exercise becomes harder when every movement reminds you of your limitations. It's like being told the solution to your problem requires doing the thing that currently causes your problem. Swimming might be easier on joints, but getting to the pool requires walking. Yoga could improve flexibility, but bending into those poses feels impossible when your joints have other plans. Sleep positions become a strategic game. That favorite sleeping pose you've used for decades, your joints might veto it completely. Side sleeping puts pressure on hips and shoulders. Back sleeping might aggravate your spine. Stomach sleeping becomes practically impossible when turning your neck feels like forcing a rusty gate. Well, here's something doctors don't always mention. Your joints don't all age at the same rate. Some people keep relatively mobile shoulders but develop terrible knee problems. Others maintain strong legs but can barely make a fist. It's like your body picks and chooses which joints get to retire early and which ones have to keep working overtime. The psychological impact hits differently than other aging changes. When your joints hurt, every movement becomes a conscious decision rather than an automatic response. Spontaneity gets filtered through the question, will this make me hurt worse later? That carefree attitude toward physical activity becomes a calculated risk assessment. But the real kicker? Joint problems don't just affect movement, they impact your entire quality of life. Social activities, hobbies, even basic self-care tasks get evaluated through the lens of joint comfort. The ripple effects touch everything from your mood to your independence. However, while your joints are busy reminding you of their age, something else is quietly changing that affects your entire body's ability to handle physical challenges. Your heart and lungs are about to join this aging conversation in ways that might surprise you. Your joints might be creaking like old floorboards, but that's nothing compared to what's happening inside your chest. The heart and lungs, those powerhouses that kept you running marathons or chasing grandkids around the yard, are starting to show their age in ways that make everyday activities feel like Olympic events. The heart, which has been beating roughly 2.5 billion times by age 80, begins to lose its youthful enthusiasm. Think about any machine that's been working nonstop for 8 decades. Well, your heart muscle starts to thicken and stiffen, making each pump less efficient than it used to be. The result? Blood doesn't get pushed through your body with the same force it once did. What used to be a powerful fire hose becomes more like a garden sprinkler. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your arteries decide to join the aging party too. They become less flexible, more like old rubber bands that have lost their stretch. And this forces your blood pressure to climb higher just to get blood flowing to all the places it needs to go. About 60% of people over 80 deal with high blood pressure, and it's not because they're eating too much salt, though that doesn't help either. Then there's the breathing situation, which becomes its own adventure. Your lungs start losing their elasticity around the same time your rib cage decides to become more rigid. The tiny air sacs in your lungs, imagine millions of little balloons, don't expand and contract as easily as they once did. Some of them even collapse permanently, leaving you with less surface area for oxygen exchange. Makes sense why that flight of stairs suddenly feels like Mount Everest, right? The diaphragm, that dome-shaped muscle that does most of the heavy lifting when you breathe, weakens too. It's like having a tired employee who can't quite do the job they used to handle with ease. So your body compensates by making you breathe faster and work harder just to get the same amount of oxygen. Walking to the mailbox might leave you slightly winded when it never used to faze you. And the weird part is how these changes sneak up on most people. You don't wake up one morning suddenly unable to breathe properly. Instead, you might notice that long conversations leave you a bit breathless, or that walking uphill requires more frequent stops than it used to. Your body becomes surprisingly good at adapting to these changes, which is both a blessing and a curse. You adjust, but you might not realize how much capacity you've actually lost. Let's not forget about the increased risk of irregular heartbeats. The electrical system that keeps your heart beating in perfect rhythm can develop some glitches over time. It's like having an old house where the wiring occasionally sparks. Most of the time it's harmless, but sometimes it creates palpitations or skip beats that can be genuinely concerning. Heart disease becomes a much more serious threat during these years too. The combination of stiffer arteries, higher blood pressure, and a less efficient pump creates the perfect storm for cardiovascular problems. About 29% of deaths in people over 80 are related to heart disease, making it the leading cause of death in this age group. Recovery from physical exertion takes longer as well. Remember when you could run around all day and bounce back after a good night's sleep? Now your heart rate takes longer to return to normal after even moderate activity. Your cardiovascular system needs more time to reset itself, like an old computer that takes forever to reboot. The oxygen carrying capacity of your blood decreases too, partly because older adults often have lower levels of hemoglobin. This means even if your heart and lungs were working perfectly, your blood simply can't carry as much oxygen as it used to. It's like trying to fill a swimming pool with a bucket that has a small hole in the bottom. But here's something that might surprise you. Regular physical activity can still make a huge difference, even at 80. Sure, you're not going to have the cardiovascular system of a 30-year-old, but staying active can slow down many of these changes significantly. The heart is a muscle, after all, and muscles respond to exercise at any age. Cold weather becomes more challenging too, as your cardiovascular system has to work harder to maintain body temperature. Many older adults find that winter activities that were once enjoyable now leave them feeling more tired than expected. While your heart and lungs are adapting to these internal changes, your body's outer shell is going through its own transformation process that's impossible to ignore. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody talks about. Your skin stops being your friend after 80. That protective barrier you've relied on your whole life, it's basically giving up on you. The thickness drops by about 40%, making it as fragile as tissue paper. One small bump against a coffee table, and boom, purple bruise that looks like you've been boxing with Mike Tyson. Your skin loses its bounce-back quality because collagen production crashes harder than a bad stock market day. Remember when you could pinch the back of your hand and watch it snap right back? Well, forget that party trick. Now it stays tented up for several seconds, like a sad little mountain that's forgotten how to be flat. Dermatologists call this the tent test, and failing it means your skin has lost most of its elasticity. Then there's the dryness. Oh boy, the dryness. Your oil glands basically go on permanent vacation, leaving your skin feeling like sandpaper. You could moisturize 3 times a day and still feel like a desert lizard. The medical term is xerosis, but let's just call it what it is. Your skin forgot how to stay hydrated. Age spots start appearing like unwanted guests at a party. These brown patches show up on your hands, face, and arms, anywhere the sun has touched you over the decades. They're basically your skin's way of keeping a permanent record of every beach day and gardening session from the past 60 years. Doctors call them liver spots, which is misleading because your liver has nothing to do with them. They're pure sun damage finally coming home to roost. Here's where things get really interesting. Your nerve endings in the skin start packing up and moving out. This means you literally feel less. Touch becomes duller. Pain signals get weaker. Sounds great in theory, right? Wrong? This numbness can be dangerous because you might not notice cuts, burns, or pressure sores until they become serious problems. Temperature regulation goes haywire too. Your skin has fewer sweat glands working properly, and the blood vessels near the surface become less responsive. 1 minute you're freezing, the next you're overheating. Your internal thermostat basically becomes as reliable as a weather forecast, wildly unpredictable and often wrong. Let's not forget about healing. Remember when a small cut would disappear in a few days? Those days are long gone. Now even tiny scrapes can take weeks to heal properly. Your skin cells divide much slower and blood flow to the skin decreases significantly. It's like trying to fix a house with half the construction crew showing up to work. Hair changes are another story entirely. The gray is just the beginning. Your hair follicles start producing thinner, weaker strands. Many follicles simply give up entirely, leading to that classic balding pattern or overall thinning. But here's the weird part. While the hair on your head disappears, you might suddenly sprout coarse hairs in unexpected places. Ears, nose, chin. It's like your body's playing some cosmic joke on you. Your scalp gets thinner too, making it more sensitive to sun damage and temperature changes. That's why many elderly people wear hats constantly. It's not just a fashion choice, it's protection for newly vulnerable skin. Skin tags become common, uninvited guests. These small, soft growths appear seemingly overnight, usually in areas where skin rubs against skin or clothing. They're harmless but annoying, like having tiny speed bumps all over your body. Most people develop at least a few by their 80s. Blood vessels near the skin surface become more fragile and visible. Those spider veins and broken capillaries create a roadmap of red and purple lines, especially on the legs and face. Even minor pressure can cause small blood vessels to burst, creating bruises that seem to appear out of nowhere. The good news, well, there isn't much. Skincare routines can help slow some of these changes, but they can't stop them. Sunscreen becomes more important than ever, even though most of the damage is already done. Gentle moisturizers can ease the dryness. Careful handling can prevent some bruising. Your skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D also drops dramatically, which affects bone health and immune function. It's like a domino effect. When your skin struggles, other body systems feel the impact too. But while your skin might be betraying you in all these ways, dulling your sense of touch and making every surface feel less defined, there's something else happening that's even more concerning. Your other senses are changing too, and in ways that make the skin problems seem minor by comparison. Your eyes were once sharp enough to spot a friend across a crowded room. Now, you're squinting at restaurant menus like they're written in ancient hieroglyphics. Welcome to the reality of aging senses, where your body's most trusted information-gathering systems start filing for early retirement. Let's start with vision, because it's usually the first domino to fall. By age 80, nearly everyone needs reading glasses, and we're not talking about those stylish frames you might have chosen in your 40s. The lens in your eye becomes thicker and less flexible, making it incredibly tough to focus on close objects. Reading a book transforms from pleasure into an Olympic sport. But here's the kicker. It's not just about needing stronger glasses. Cataracts cloud up the lens in about half of all people over 75. Think of it like looking through a dirty windshield that never gets clean. Colors appear faded, bright lights create halos, and night driving becomes genuinely scary. Then, there's macular degeneration, which attacks the center of your vision first. You might still see movement in your peripheral vision, but faces become blurry puzzles. Well, at least you can still hear what's happening around you, right? Wrong. Hearing loss hits over 80% of people by their 80s, and it's not just about volume. High-frequency sounds disappear first, which means consonants get fuzzy while vowels remain clear. Conversations start sounding like people are mumbling through cotton balls. Pass the salt becomes ask the ought. Makes sense why so many family dinners turn into frustrating guessing games. The weird part is how hearing loss sneaks up on you. It happens so gradually that many people don't realize how much they're missing until someone points it out. Background noise becomes your enemy. Restaurants with music might as well be torture chambers. Phone calls turn into exercises in creative interpretation. But wait, there's more sensory bad news coming your way. Remember when food actually had flavor? Those 10,000 taste buds you were born with start dying off, and your body doesn't replace them like it used to. By 80, you might have lost up to 2/3 of them. Sweet and salty tastes hang around longer than bitter and sour ones, which explains why older adults often crave desserts or heavily salted foods. Then there's your sense of smell, which works as a tag team with taste to create flavor. Smell receptors weaken dramatically with age, making it harder to detect when food has gone bad. This isn't just about missing out on the aroma of fresh coffee. It's a genuine safety issue. You might not smell a gas leak, smoke from a fire, or spoiled milk in your refrigerator. Your sense of touch joins the sensory rebellion too. Nerve endings become less sensitive, especially in your hands and feet. You might not feel cuts or burns right away, and your ability to detect temperature changes diminishes. Hot water that could scald you might feel merely warm. The delicate feedback your fingers once provided for tasks like buttoning shirts or picking up coins becomes unreliable. And the balance issues, those stem partly from changes in your inner ear, where tiny crystals that help detect movement and position start shifting around like loose change in a pocket. Combined with weaker vision and reduced feeling in your feet, staying steady becomes a daily challenge. Here's what really gets frustrating. These changes don't happen in isolation. Poor vision makes it harder to read medication labels. Reduced hearing means missing important health information from doctors. Weakened taste and smell can lead to poor nutrition when food loses its appeal. Everything connects in ways that multiply the problems. The brain tries to compensate, but it's fighting an uphill battle. When one sense weakens, others work overtime to fill the gaps. People with hearing loss often become expert lip readers without realizing it. Those with poor vision develop incredibly sensitive hearing, but there's only so much compensation possible when multiple senses decline simultaneously. Technology helps, but it can't restore what's lost. Hearing aids amplify sound, but can't restore natural hearing quality. Cataract surgery works wonders, but other vision problems persist. Reading glasses help with close work, but they can't fix everything that goes wrong with aging eyes. Social connections suffer when senses fail. Conversations become work instead of pleasure. Shared meals lose their joy when food tastes like cardboard. Movies and music provide less entertainment when you can't see clearly or hear properly. What makes this particularly cruel is timing. Just when you have more life experience to appreciate subtle flavors, beautiful sights, and complex sounds, your ability to perceive them fades. It's like having a library card to the world's best collection just as the lights start dimming and the pages become blurry. While your senses struggle with this daily reality, something even more concerning develops beneath the surface, changes that affect how your body fights off threats and how your mind processes the world around you. After age 80, your body's defense system starts acting like an outdated security guard who's half asleep on the job. The immune system that once fought off infections with military precision now responds slower and weaker to threats. White blood cells take longer to mobilize. Antibodies don't pack the same punch they used to. Makes sense why that common cold your grandkid brings home suddenly becomes a 2-week ordeal instead of a minor sniffle. The numbers tell a sobering story. People over 80 are 5 times more likely to die from pneumonia compared to younger adults. Their immune system simply can't mount the aggressive response needed to clear lung infections quickly. What used to be manageable illnesses become serious medical emergencies, requiring hospitalization. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your brain starts showing its age too, and not just in the ways you might expect. Processing speed slows down significantly. That sharp mental reflex you had for solving problems or remembering names, it's like switching from high-speed internet to dial-up. The information still gets through, just not as fast. Memory becomes particularly tricky. You might remember your wedding day from 50 years ago in vivid detail, but completely forget where you put your keys 5 minutes ago. Short-term memory takes the biggest hit. New information struggles to stick around long enough to become permanent memories. Well, at least you have an excuse for forgetting people's names at parties now. Then there's something called processing speed decline. Simple tasks that once felt automatic now require more conscious effort. Balancing a checkbook might take twice as long. Following complex conversations becomes harder when multiple people are talking. Your brain is still capable, but it's working with older, slower hardware. The scary part? Infections become exponentially more dangerous. A urinary tract infection that would barely slow down a younger person can cause confusion and delirium in someone over 80. Pneumonia doesn't just make you cough. It can trigger a cascade of complications that land you in intensive care. The immune system's delayed response gives bacteria and viruses more time to multiply and spread throughout the body. Let's not forget how vaccines become absolutely crucial at this stage. Your weakened immune system means you need all the help you can get. Annual flu shots aren't just recommended, they're essential armor against potentially life-threatening illnesses. Pneumonia vaccines, shingles vaccines, COVID boosters, they all become part of staying alive rather than just staying healthy. And the weird part is how cognitive changes sneak up gradually. You don't wake up one day with dramatically different thinking abilities. Instead, it's a slow fade. Planning a grocery shopping trip might require making lists when you used to keep everything in your head. Following medication schedules becomes more challenging without pill organizers and reminders. Executive function, your brain's ability to organize, plan, and multitask, shows significant decline. Cooking a meal with multiple dishes becomes overwhelming when you used to manage Thanksgiving dinner for 12 people without breaking a sweat. The mental juggling act that once felt effortless now requires deliberate concentration. Mental flexibility takes a hit too. Adapting to new situations or changing plans mid-course becomes much harder. That smartphone your family insists will make your life easier, learning to use it feels like deciphering ancient hieroglyphics. Your brain prefers familiar routines and struggles more with unexpected changes. But here's something fascinating. Vocabulary and general knowledge often remain surprisingly intact. You might not remember where you parked the car, but you can still dominate at crossword puzzles. Crystallized intelligence, all that accumulated wisdom and information, tends to hold steady even when processing speed declines. Sleep patterns change too, which affects both immune function and cognitive performance. Older adults spend less time in deep, restorative sleep phases. This creates a vicious cycle. Poor sleep weakens immunity further while making memory and concentration problems worse. Those afternoon naps aren't laziness. They're your body trying to compensate for fragmented nighttime sleep. The immune system's decline also affects wound healing and recovery from illnesses. A minor cut that would heal in days now takes weeks. Surgery recovery times stretch longer. Your body simply can't mobilize repair mechanisms as efficiently as before. Even stress hormones stick around longer, keeping inflammation levels elevated and making everything worse. Social connections become more important than ever during this stage. Isolation doesn't just affect mood, it actually weakens immune function further. Regular social interaction helps maintain cognitive sharpness and provides motivation for self-care. Loneliness literally makes you sicker by suppressing immune responses. What makes this particularly challenging is how these changes compound each other. Slower thinking makes it harder to remember medication schedules, which weakens immunity further. Poor immunity leads to more infections, which cause confusion and faster cognitive decline. It's a domino effect where each problem makes the others worse. Despite all these challenges, there's still more happening inside your body that most people never consider.